empowering the blind to be excellent, do more, and live with greater success. This show is for you and about you. Welcome to the Delivering Access Podcast. All right, so I've been getting emails after emails after emails asking, who am I? Who is the guy on the microphone doing these interviews with all these great people around the world? So who am I? My name is Vashon Jones. I'm the managing partner of Fedora Outlier LLC. We provide top-down, better than excellent consulting, teaching, and support on all of Apple's assistive technology. Today's guest, our hero, our spotlighted hero, is Mr. Michael Hansen. Michael, are you ready to empower?
Yes, sir.
Great, man. So we're going to start off with question number one. It's a softball. Maybe the listeners know it, maybe they don't, but we're going to get you to tell the story of how you became blind, where you grew up, and what tools you used along your way in life.
All right, that's a pretty big question, but I'm glad to be able to talk about it because for the longest time I was ashamed of being blind. I'm going on a trip in a few days to Florida, and I can remember just not too long ago, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I did not want to be seen in the airport with my cane. I didn't want to. If you're blind, you can pre-board the plane and all that. I didn't want to do that because I didn't want people to know that I was blind. Okay. And eventually I got over that. But it's been an incredible journey. Okay. I have congenital glaucoma, which basically means that the tear ducts in your eyes do not drain out the amount of fluid that your eyes tissues are creating. I know the eye doctors that listen to this are going to cringe because I'm not explaining this right. Basically, and then with the overabundance of fluid, it presses on your optic nerve and cuts off blood flow to a bunch of different parts in the eye and creates vision loss. That's the non-technical eye doctors will cringe explanation.
So do you cry more or less?
I don't think it is any different. My eyes are they don't tear too much.
Okay.
I had a retinal reattachment surgery back in 6th grade, back in 2003, I noticed that when I had the patch off for the first few days, the right eye was real sensitive. And, I noticed that it would tear a ton.
Right.
But it hasn't done that much in recent years. So, life is good.
Right. The reason why I asked that for those listening, and I'm definitely not a doctor, so I just broke that question down to the ground level, but I had the same eye condition, and man, my eyes would just tear up. Your patches is just soaked with tears and all of that. So, I wanted to be an alpha male, didn't want to be seen,
Did you have real high pressures too?
I had very high pressures in the eye, so much that my pressure was normal when it was high, and when it was,
that's me.
Yeah. So lots of surgeries, but this interview is about you. You are a spotlighted hero. Continue to tell us, your story.
Okay. So when I started out going to public school, my parents believed that I should be treated no differently. They insisted, for example, that instead of the school district offered to put the school bus stop in front of the house, but the O&M said, no, let's have it down the street so he can walk and do his cane skills. So that's the kind of parents I had. They held me to very high standards. They expected the world out of me, and it's that really helped shape who I am. So in third grade, at the end of third grade, I moved to a self-contained program out of district. Um, I live in Illinois, in the western suburbs of Chicago.
Okay.
I moved out of my home district to a program inside a regular school. So it was a mainstream school, but there was there was one classroom dedicated to students with visual impairments. It was what they call a resource classroom or a self-contained classroom.
Okay.
And the reason I did that was because I was tired of being the odd man out. I was tired of, kids, they don't know any better. And, I got asked questions like, well, why do your eyes look weird? And, oh my God, that hurts.
How many fingers do I have up?
Oh, I hated that one. How many fingers do I have? I don't know. Why don't you tell me?
Look, but then when you guess it right, they think you can see.
Oh my goodness, you guessed right.
Yeah, mine's like, he's not really blind. He just told me how many fingers he had up.
Or they put their hands over your eyes and say, guess who? And I say, I could tell you by your voice.
Right.
So I went to fourth grade and then middle school and high school at this out-of-district program. I did high school in 5 years, not because I had problems succeeding academically, but because I needed extra time built into my day to, for a math study hall and to have orientation and mobility. And yeah, you know how math is for a person who's blind. It's real hard. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't just pass it, but that I understood it.
Okay.
So, we did high school in 5 years, and I was able to do extracurriculars, music, orchestra. I got to even conduct the orchestra as a senior. The senior song at the last concert I got to conduct. That was really cool.
Okay.
And I graduated, quote unquote, graduated in June of 2011. Now, in Illinois, you can stay in the special education system until you're age 22. And I was only 19 at the time. Goodness, it seems like so long ago. You can stay in the special ed system until you're 22. And one of the things that I felt that I wasn't getting, I got great academic education. Mm-hmm. I had great orientation and mobility, great job skills. But the one thing that I didn't feel I was getting was independent living skills.
Right.
How do you clean on your own? How do you cook on your own? How do you balance a checkbook? Okay. How do you advocate, effectively and politely? Those sorts of things. And so I went and enrolled in the transitional living program at the Illinois School for the Visually Impaired in Jacksonville, which is not Jacksonville, Florida, unfortunately. That would be great.
Right.
But at Jacksonville, Illinois, which is about 35, 40-minute drive west of Springfield in central Illinois.
Okay.
So I've been there for the last 2 years, living in an apartment. It's supervised, so there's staff there 24/7, but we're really encouraged to do as much of the stuff we can on our own. And there are teachers there to teach us, during the day you go to classes and you got a math class and assistive tech, and which we'll get to in just a second, I promise. Assistive tech, I love it.
My favorite.
Yes. And there are other, like independent living skills, laundry, cleaning, cooking, and we had all those built into a residential program. Mm. And then just last semester, I started taking community college classes. I took a United States government class, had an awesome experience with the disabilities service people at Lincoln Land Community College there in Jacksonville. And so that was in itself a pretty empowering experience. So fast forward to the end of last year and now summer, and here I am, and I go back to school in less than a couple of weeks, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Man, that is a great story. And amazingly enough, I'm thinking that you're this older CEO that has had lots of life experience, behind him, and to come to find out you're as young as you are.
Oh.
So that's
Well, thank you. I don't claim to have the life experience, but it is an honor that people would, you know, find my story to be inspiring, and that's one of the things that I like to help people. If I can help somebody out with a tech question,
Mhm.
it's one of my favorite things. At school, what I would do is, the somebody's phone or something would break down either in the building where I was or over in the dormitory building for the younger students. And, I would get calls, Michael, would you come over here and look at this?
Yeah.
Michael, my computer won't start. Will you come over here and look at this? Okay, I'm on my way.
Paging Dr. Hansen.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
Michael, even though this journey and this story is all about you, you're our spotlighted hero. Do have one question. We're going to pivot for a second and talk about what your passion is for the blind community.
I strongly believe that the worst part about blindness is not the blindness itself, but the stereotypes. People have so many wrong, inaccurate, and not necessary, and sometimes offensive, but not so much, hateful, but just inaccurate stereotypes about blindness. Oh, he can't do that. He can't see. And it would, one day I would like to be able to go and apply for a job or do something else. And, my blindness, the employer would see me walk in with the cane and it would not be a factor. The cane would not be a factor or a limiting factor in my employment. Or I'd like to be able to go into a restaurant and the waitress, never even think of asking the person I'm with, well, what would he like to order?
Would he like ketchup?
Yeah, exactly. Or, just to be able to walk around on the street and have, equal access, to have those stoplight, they have the automated, audible stoplights that tell you when it's okay to cross at every intersection. I mean, I've got so many great visions, or to have easy access to transportation that's, public transit, depending on where you are, it's great and it's useful, but there's always room for improvement. So my whole vision is that I would like to see blind people who are blind rather, treated and integrated into society as equals.
Man, that's very powerful. And you're young enough to see that whole transition kind of come into fruition and make those things happen. So we're going to get into our favorite part. I'm going to go ahead and claim it just like you. Talk to us about your technology. What's exciting you right now? What are you using? What's your favorite? Talk to us about that.
Okay. Well, I got started using JAWS in 2002. It was JAWS 4.01. And now, of course, we're at JAWS 14, and I've got a Windows 7 computer, absolutely loving it. I have an iPhone 5 and an iPad mini. I'm running Windows 7 on a MacBook Air, that 13-inch. It's a new 2013 MacBook Air Core i7 processor, 512 gigabyte solid state storage, and I am absolutely loving it.
Okay, go over those specs one more time. i7 processor, 2013 MacBook Air, 13 inch. What was the rest?
512 gigabyte solid state storage. It's basically a replacement for your hard drive, is the flash memory.
Right.
And 8 gigabytes of RAM memory. So I saved up, and I got the system that I've been wanting for a while. Hint, people that are wanting your MacBook Air, especially you young people like me, save your money. It'll
pay
serve
off in
you
the
well.
end. Now, the other
It,
part that gets me is the Windows on your MacBook Air. Are you using Parallels, Fusion?
I'm using Boot Camp actually, and
Okay,
what
so
that
dual
is
boot.
it creates a partition on your hard drive, virtual wall on your hard drive, basically, so you can boot natively right into Windows.
Wow. So we're going to dive more into that a little later in the interview as far as the technology. But of the technologies and innovation out there now, what's exciting you the most for use for the blind?
Oh boy. Well, Apple's next upcoming operating system, I'm really looking forward to, obviously, to iOS 7 and OS X Mavericks. I know people have been worried about with the UI design that, people were saying, oh, well, because you heard all that about how it was redesigned from the top down and all that. And the only thing I can really say about that is that, what, we don't have any evidence to suggest that it wouldn't be accessible. So I'm really looking forward to a great iOS 7 release. What On the iPhone platform, I really like that Seeing Eye GPS, because that's one thing that I've been wanting for a while, is a GPS solution that I can use right on my iPhone. I have a Trekker Breeze. I got it from a grant program,
Mm-hmm.
and it works, but I've wanted something built right into my phone. So I'm also really looking forward to increased Office 2013 support in JAWS 15. I'm really hoping that Freedom Scientific increases JAWS support for Outlook and the other Office 2013 programs, because it is faster. It does run faster on my than Outlook 2007, but I'm looking forward to increased support, in terms of just feature support.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm going to be completely honest. I know a lot of people would say that the Google car is interesting. I think that the Google car and the driverless cars certainly have potential, and they are great. I watched the video of the NFB man, Mr. Riccobono, driving the specially equipped Ford. I think it was a Ford last year, 2012. When he did that around the racetrack a couple times.
Now,
But the
did
whole
you actually
concept.
go? I was there, and it was amazing.
You were there.
I was
Oh,
actually there, and of course, I know Mark Riccobono and Neil Lewis and all those guys, but that was just amazing. So, if you talk bad about this car, I'm gonna come beat your butt.
no,
But
no, no. It's just, the only thing is, it makes me a little nervous.
okay, well,
It makes me a little nervous, but I'm not opposed to the idea of it. It just, I'd like to see it ironed out a little bit before I get behind the wheel.
oh yeah, definitely. I sure hope that we got roads that are prepared and people's mentalities prepared for the blind driving. And I think when we pull up to that restaurant or pick our wives or girlfriends up in the car and take them out on a date, autonomous on our own. Try to use a big word on a podcast.
If somebody called me up tomorrow and said, "Hey, you want to come to Florida and give this thing a try?" I probably would do it. I'm a nervous person, but I'd probably do it. I'd be completely honest with you.
Man.
But I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it refined a little more before I go take it out on my local subdivision.
Okay, that makes sense. So right now, I know that you're a geek. I know that you lost your sight early on in life, and right now you're currently in school. Tell us about the school, the program, and how that's working for you right now.
Well, what I'm doing right now is I am going to age out of the special ed system in February of 2014, because I'll be 22. Then I'm going to come back home and go to my local community college. So what I'm going to do until I age out is, this next upcoming semester, in a couple weeks, I'm going to go back to the Illinois School for the Visually Impaired, take some more classes. I'm going to be doing some calculus, taking a calculus class. Yeah. my thing is I want to get that math out of the way ASAP. For my associate's degree. So I really want to get that done. I'm going to take calculus at the community college and take English at the community college, and then just do other classes such as independent living, cooking, assistive tech, that kind of thing. And that's all while, living in the residential setting where you're, encouraged to, you're basically on your own. You're supervised, but you're on your own, if that makes sense. So they have staff there to make sure that you don't tear the place apart.
Right.
But in terms of setting your own bedtimes and, deciding, what decisions you have to make and, how to prioritize your time for college, you're basically on your own.
Right. So let me try this word one more time. So basically you're able to make autonomous decisions.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
So that is great, man. And definitely good luck with your calculus. I'm sure you know.
Thank you. I think I'm going to need it.
Yeah. I'm sure you know there's not too many sighted people taking calculus, much less being blind and then being going over to get your associate's degree at a standard college, and best of luck to you on all of that.
Thank you, sir.
Now, besides your favorite and my favorite, dealing with technology, what everybody in the world wants to hear is Apple Viz. Now, you're one of the guys behind Apple Viz. It's definitely been something that I look up and keep those apps in my toolkit. It's a reference for anyone who needs to know about apps. It's something that I heard about before I even heard about you, Michael.
Oh, thank you.
I don't want to steal your thunder on Apple Viz. Tell us all there is to know about Apple Viz.
Okay. Well, the big brains behind the operation, his name is David Goodwin. You'll see sometimes he'll post things on the website. David Goodwin founded the site in July 2010. I believe the anniversary is July 28th. So we just marked three years of being online. The original founding principle behind Apple Viz and I think our strongest contribution to the community is our iOS and Mac app directories. What the iOS and Mac app directories are is it is a place where people can submit apps and rate them based on accessibility. So, for example, the Skype app, if I had never used the Skype app before, or for new users, they're wanting to know more about how it works with VoiceOver, you could go to Apple Viz, you can search the site, or you can browse by category, find Skype, and read user comments and kind of track its accessibility, both the current versions and in the past version. So that is one of the biggest thing about Apple Viz is our iOS and Mac app directories. We also have podcasts where we encourage users to submit demos of apps, from games to how to do features on your iPhone. I just did one on, for example, how to manage the United States government push alerts on your iPhone. We have Mac app demos. We have accessory demos. Our only real requirement, we got a list of guidelines for podcasting best practices, and our only thing other than those guidelines, is just that it would be Apple related. Let's see. We also have a forum where people can ask questions, and I've seen that's really grown a lot, I think, in the last year. We've seen a lot of forum posts, a lot of new users coming to ask questions, and the community support, the people who know the answers, who've been doing this for a while, they're very willing to step up and answer a quick question for new people. And I think that's one of the things that really makes us, thrive is the community participation.
Okay. And what do you do for Apple Viz?
I am a member of the editorial team, and basically what I do is I will check app directory entries. Like if we have somebody submit a app directory entry, I'll make sure that the description is the current with the iTunes store description. I make sure that the version numbers are up to date. As much as we would like everybody to update the apps that they've posted on AppleVis, it doesn't always happen. So in the cases where people have gone on to other areas of life and don't have the time or the resources to participate in AppleVis anymore, that's okay. We'll just go ahead and update those entries, and or sometimes users will submit. If let's say that user A, the app directory entry was submitted by user A, and user Z says, "Hey, this new version was updated and it's no longer accessible." We'll go in and update it since obviously user Z can't do it because it's not linked to their account. Mm-hmm. We also record podcasts, although that's not just an editorial team thing. We encourage users to submit podcasts. We review all submissions, and we do review, and we do have to make decisions about which ones we want to publish. But we encourage people, if they have demos that they'd like us to possibly publish, go ahead and submit those to us. We moderate the forums, which there really isn't very much to that because our users are generally a very good, very well-behaved group of people. Sometimes somebody will post a harsh comment. Tempers will boil over once in a while, but it really isn't. It doesn't really happen that often, to be honest. So the majority of it is just making sure things are posted in the right categories and all that. And then lastly, it's about, we communicate. If users have questions for us, they can communicate with us on Twitter. I have an open search. I use the Cube to monitor the AppleVis. I have a search for AppleVis, and so if people post things with the word AppleVis in it or tweet to the official AppleVis account, we can respond. We look at that. I use Twitterific on my phone, by the way. Great app.
I love it. I use it as well.
It's awesome.
Yep.
Let's see. And then lastly, we do some blogging and also help with administrative decision making. What new things do we want to try on the website to help get more people engaged, or what things aren't working so well that maybe we want to reevaluate. So just kind of administrative team decision making.
Okay. So you do all of this for $1 million a year per person, or is it all volunteer?
It is all volunteer, and we accept donations, but we don't do any advertising. We don't have any sponsorship partners. We don't get any grants, so it's all a volunteer thing. And I love it because it gives me something to do. I was the editor-in-chief of my high school newspaper for 1 year, so I'm able to put my newspaper, my English grammar skills to use when I go edit. Sometimes I'll edit app entries and just not the content, but the wording, or not the grammar of them, just to
make sure everything flows properly.
Yeah, make sure everything flows. And I will write blogs sometimes, and so I love being able to give back and to be able to have a part in an organization, because when you're buying an app, especially when I was first doing this whole app thing, not everything's accessible. And if I can look and get a recommendation, and not all recommendations are foolproof, unfortunately.
Right.
What's accessible to one person, may not be to another. Some people have a higher tolerance for unlabeled buttons,
right,
mislabeled elements, and this doesn't really work, but it's fully accessible. No. It's been a great resource, and it's a great way to find out about new things. And another thing I really like about the AppleVis is that I don't have the time, unfortunately, to keep up with mailing lists, because they're just so high traffic, and they're that way by design. I just don't have the time with school and everything else. Whereas I can just go quickly to the AppleVis website and look at the forums and see if there's a topic that doesn't interest me. You don't have to read it. You don't get 50 replies in your mailbox. Now, that's not to say that mailing lists are not valuable, because they are. And, if I had all the time in the world, I'd probably be subscribed to a few of them, for JAWS and, but it's just kind of a what works best for every person.
Right.
One of the disadvantages to using the online forum, and one of the advantages of using a mailing list, is that, you can reply directly from your email to the mailing list. Whereas if you're on an online forum, you have to go onto the website and type out. Yeah, exactly. So, there are advantages and disadvantages to both approaches. And I think it's just all about what works best for you.
So how much of AppleVis is automated, where it's not too much work for the owners and the stakeholders in AppleVis? Is it, a great percentage of it is automated and kind of user generated? And
I would say a fair amount of our content is user generated. A lot of our new app postings, a lot of the apps that I've seen posted just recently, for example, a couple of them are posted from us. I'm not much of I don't go out and download everything I can get my hands on. I know people that do, and I'm not knocking people that do, because those are the kinds of people we need.
Right.
But, I'm not a huge app downloader like I used to be, but I would say that a lot of our content is user-based. Certainly our forum topics are user-based, and podcasts. We've got, I think, as of right now, we have 445 podcasts out of all app demos. I think a couple of them were outdated, so we took them down. Where apps have had significant redesigns, like our Zello, the Zello podcast we took down because the app had been rebuilt from the ground up. So what's the point of having a podcast up there about it if it isn't relevant, that sort of thing. But we've got about roughly 440 active podcasts right now. And a lot of those are from the users. A lot of our guides are from the users. And I think the only area where there's more editorial team involvement is updating apps, because I think, it's not out of a desire to not update their app entry. I just think people forget, oh yeah, I submitted that to AppleVis. Okay, case in point, we were going through the AppleVis app directory about a month ago, just going through to see what was still available for download and what wasn't. And I saw an app that I had submitted a couple years ago that I completely forgot about. I was like, what is this? It had my name on it. It was submitted by Michael Hansen. Okay, then. So people forget. And so that's the one thing that isn't as automated, where we have to go in and make sure that it's updated, or if people post comments, we have to still go in and update, but it's not a bad thing. We would rather people, just, comment to us if they're not able to update the app entries and they just have the time to post a comment and say, hey, I've tried this and it's not as accessible as it once was. We can go in and take care of the rest, so it's not necessarily a bad thing that, if people don't update their entries. The important thing is that, we just want to try to make engaging with the website as easy for users as possible. And, we respect that our users too are volunteering their time. And, if they don't have the time, that they did, a couple of years ago, we understand that, things change, life changes, people change, circumstances change, and life just goes marching on,
Right. So what about some type of auto reminder that says, hey, you put this app in the app store 6 months ago. Can you check it for us and see if it's been updated, any changes? And,
we have a new feature. We call it nudging. We have a new nudge feature that we just implemented about a month ago. When we were going through the app directory, we realized how many old apps we had.
Okay.
And it allows the editorial team to go in and send an email to the email address listed with the AppleVis account.
Okay.
And, what it will say, I nudged myself just to try it. I had an app that I had just updated. It was one of mine, and I sent the nudge email to myself just for kicks.
Okay.
And it said, basically, we noticed that this entry has not been updated, that you have been able to update this entry in a while. Would you be willing to please try the app out? As we know, accessibility is a constantly changing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it is very possible too, and I've seen this where apps have been made fully accessible, but people have given up on them because they've been inaccessible for so long, and then suddenly developers will make an update, and it may take a little bit. People, hey, I just tried this and it works a lot better now. So yes, we do have an automated nudge feature, and it's really working well. We've gotten several updates, and the people we've nudged. What I try to do now is if there's an app update, what I will do is I'll nudge the original contributor and wait a couple days. And if they don't update anything, then I'll just assume that maybe they've changed email addresses or don't have the time anymore. So we'll go ahead and change it. But a lot of people have really responded to that, and so we're really appreciative that people are able to take the time and keep those entries up to date.
Okay. So you said about a month ago is when you guys added this. So in essence, you give it a few more months and see how many people are actually updating their apps now versus before, and you can get a good gauge as to whether that feature is
and it's helpful. Like if we have a high profile app, it's helpful if we have a high profile release, or a popular release, I should say, that's been updated and just recently made accessible. We can send an email saying, hey, can you check this out? And usually in my experience, people have been pretty receptive to it.
So when the Kindle app became accessible, you guys were all on it.
Oh my goodness. That was a really good day. That was a really good day for us.
That was a good day for us as well. So we shared in the accessibility of that app being created.
It was good because a lot of people, the NFB, many user groups campaigned to Amazon to make that app accessible.
Yep.
AppleVis had a campaign, but, we could not have done it alone. The NFB had a huge part in that, campaigning in Washington, and a huge letter writing campaign, all of which I think contributed to them not just building in access, but they did a really good job of it.
Yeah.
Not just accessible, it's really accessible. Now, there are still some Braille issues that I think are getting worked out. I hope are getting worked out. I think I saw something where people were saying that Braille support was improving. But yeah, it was really cool when I checked my phone midday. It was May 1st. And I checked my phone midday at school, and I looked and I went, "Oh my goodness!"
Yep. There you go. Well, Michael, you've given us a great story. The Delivering Access podcast listeners definitely appreciate it. You're a rock star. We definitely hope that you are going to do great with your calculus again. It's time to say goodbye. So if you could give us one parting piece of advice, tell us how we can reach you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Okay. First of all, what I'll do is I'll give you our contact information.
Okay.
If users have any questions about AppleVis, or maybe they started an account and they don't remember what their password is, or just have any questions about how to use AppleVis, you can email us at support@applevis.com, support@applevis.com. We have 2 Twitter accounts. One tweets new and noteworthy content. So if somebody posts a new app directory entry or a new podcast or a new guide, and that is just the @ sign, and then Applevis, APPLEVIS. And then we have another Twitter account for Twitter junkies like me who like to follow everything there is to know about Applevis on the website. The forum replies, the app replies, the podcast replies, the blogs, any sort of replies to existing content. And that is Applevis XL, APPLEVIS XL. If you guys, for some reason, want to get in touch with me, my Twitter username is M as in Michael, H as in Hansen, 3129. And then my email address is Michael, Michael, 3129 at gmail.com. As far as parting advice, the important thing is to remember that, there is life after blindness. There's nothing is impossible, and I feel that really strongly that, so many people think, and there's so much misinformation out there that, that blindness, oh, you can't do it. It's the end. You can't see, life is over. There is life after blindness. So if you're in that camp or you're newly blind, get in touch with organizations. There's obviously, you've got Fedora who does training, the one-on-one training, or if you want a user community, go to Applevis for your Apple devices. There are mailing lists. There's the NFB, there's the ACB, there is Life After Blindness, and there's a whole community of people, that's interested in helping you do this journey together and making the most out of it.
Absolutely. Now, Michael, my team at Fedora would absolutely get on me if I didn't correct you with the training. We feel that you train a dog. We feel that you teach individuals. So we provide consulting, teaching, and support. But other than that, we appreciate you. The Delivering Access podcast listeners appreciate you. And we're going to say goodbye.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you all have a great day. And thanks for listening to me babble for the last how many ever minutes it was. Goodbye now.
It was great.
Goodbye now.
In my traditional closing, if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you are right. Think pennies, get pennies. Think dollars, get dollars. See you on the other side.
This has been a Yuga Music Group production. Website 81x.com/Yuga/X. The Yuga Music Group can be reached at 678-608-8969. All rights reserved.